Welcome to dotloop support. Today we're going to talk about editing PDFs using the dotloop document editor. There's a couple ways to add a PDF to your dotloop account, and here we can see three of them. You can email a PDF directly into your loop. You can add a PDF from your templates section if you have PDF that you've added to your templates. Or you could, like I'm going to today, add a PDF from your computer. So I'm going to go ahead and click Computer. I'm going to choose Sample Form because that's the PDF that I want to work with. And I'll choose Open here. I'll see the name of my form, sample form, right here in the Documents section of my loop. All I need to do is click on the title, and this will open my document editor. Now, the very first thing that we'll notice is that my PDF is completely blank. I can't click on it and edit it. It's more or less just a photograph of my contract. It's up to me to add all the fields to it. So what I'm going to do is we want to start most likely by just adding this date field here since it's at the top of the form. Up here we have a couple options. This is our PDF editing toolbar. You'll notice that I have add signature and add text available to me here. I'm going to go ahead and click add text. All I do is click on it once and the text box begins following my cursor around on the page. I can place it pretty much anywhere I want within the parameters of the document borders, but I'm going to go ahead and place it right here next to date. I just click to drop it, and immediately my box turns into an opaque white text field that I can type in. If I wanted to make the box larger, all I'd have to do is take my cursor to the bottom right hand corner of the box here, click, and drag the box out to the right. I can make this as large as I need to. However, I really only need it to be as wide as the line here for the date field. When the box is selected, you'll notice I have this toolbar up here. This is my text field toolbar. So anytime I'm clicked on a text field, I'll see this bar, and basically it just allows me to make changes to the text that's inside of it. So if I were to put some information in here, I can now edit this information just based on this toolbar here. I can change it from serif to monospaced or to sans serif if I don't like the font family that it is. I happen to like serif, so I'll go ahead and place it back on that. I can change the font size to any font size listed here. Now, one thing to note is you'll notice that 13, 14, and 15 point font are not available to me. That's because the field is actually not large enough to fit font of that size. If I were to make this just a little bit taller, I would be able to choose 15 point font. Now that's kind of big. That's a little too big in my opinion, so I'm going to go ahead and switch this back down to 12 point. So there we are. I could left align this, which it is by default. I could center align it. Now, something I want to mention about your alignments here. This aligns the text within the text field itself. So if I click center align, it actually aligns it to the center of the text field. It does not align your box to the center of the document. However, if I were to stretch this, the length of the document, it would remain in the center of my text field. And of course, align right does the same thing. It just pushes it all the way over to the right hand side. I need it to be aligned left, so I'm going to go ahead and click align left and then drag my box back over here. So you can see that moving and resizing the box is a pretty simple process. Take your cursor to the bottom right hand corner to resize it, and just as a good rule of thumb, take your cursor to the top left hand corner to click and move it around. The four-way arrow symbolizes that you can click down at any point you see that four-way arrow and move the box around if you wanted to. Okay, back up to the editor here. I could italicize the text within the box, bold, or standard size. I can add a strike through. You'll notice I'm not highlighting the text. It applies to all the text in the box when you make a change. So you can choose text color here. You have black or blue. Those are the two options that we give you. Again, all the text in the box changes. You can choose the highlight color, which basically just adds a highlighter color to the background of the text box that you're working in. If I were to make this like, this large, then the box would be yellow in the background. And I don't really want to highlight my date, so I'll go ahead and take that off. I could add a clause, which, just as an example, if I add another text field here, and I drag this out, That's a pretty decent sized text field. I don't want to write my entire clause in there because I have clauses added to the clause section of my templates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and click Add Clause. Go ahead and select this, choose Add, and now this information has been added here for me. I can make my box transparent. So a good example of that would be if I added another text box and I just drop it over this first line. Again, the box is opaque, so it's covering all of this up. If I wanted to, let's put it over dotloop, for example. Okay, if I just wanted to change this real quick, all I'd really have to do is, type dotloop there, and it's opaque, so it's covering that up in the background. But if I wanted to show it to you, like what was behind it, I could delete the information out, click transparency, and you'll still see the box there. That transparency option can be pretty useful from time to time. But again, it turns your entire text box transparent, not just a portion of it. If I wanted to delete a field, which I don't really have any use for this field that's sitting over top of dotloop here, I could click the X to remove field. And now it's gone, as you can see. Let's go ahead and move down my PDF here, where I have a couple seller and buyer signature spots. One of my two options here is Add Signature. All I have to do is click on it. Again, it begins following my mouse around. Some parameters to discuss would be I can't drop a signature over a text box. So if I wanted to place it here, I would have to resize my text box like this. And then I could put my signature here, for example. I don't really want a signature box there, so I'm going to go ahead and click the X to remove it. I'll choose Add Signature again, move down my page, and I'm going to go ahead and drop a signature box for a seller. I have to click it again to add another signature box for my other seller. The other option I have is I can click Add Signature, hold down my Shift key, place it for the buyer, and you'll notice that my cursor is still carrying around an Add Signature box because I held down my Shift key and I can drop the second box there. By default, these signature boxes are assigned to anyone. Of course, that could quickly turn into a disaster if you share these with people and you have your sellers signing in the buyers section and all that. So to make it a little easier for everyone involved, we allow you to assign the boxes to people. So for example, I can click on this box here, go up to Assign to Anyone, and choose Sally, who is my seller. Now, Sally would be prompted to sign in this box. Now these boxes are still assigned to anyone, so technically Sally could click here and sign these. We want that to not be an option. So if I don't have, let's say, Sally's husband added to the loop just yet, but I know that at some point he's going to need to sign here, I can click on this box, I can go to assign it to a role. As I move down here, I can choose seller. Now something to note is it says seller Sally. That's because Sally is the only seller that I have added to my loop. If I had another seller in my loop, their name would be listed here as well. But it's still only going to assign it to the seller role. So if I click here, it'll say seller sign here, and let's say a little later today I add her husband to the loop. He will be able to sign there. I could also alternatively come back into the document, click here, and just reassign it to her husband, who would be listed here in the people section. I'm just going to leave it as seller for now. Now, that still leaves our two buyer signature fields assigned to anyone. So again, Sally could sign here and here at this moment. So we want to take care of that. So just to show you another feature that we have, if you click and drag around the signature fields, you'll select both of them, and you'll have this little button up here on the top left-hand side. This is the group button. If you click this, you're actually telling dotloop that these fields are grouped together because they're both buyer signature fields. So let's go ahead and click that. I've now grouped the fields together. You can tell because the button is turned to white. If I select one of these fields and go up to assigned to role and I say buyer, both fields will be assigned to buyers, as you can see here. Now let's talk about the terminology. It says assigned to no buyers. That's because I don't have any buyers in my loop. If I had buyers in my loop, then it would say, assigned to buyers and then their names. But I don't actually have any buyers, so right now it's assigned to no one, but still the role buyer. So for example, when I share this to the buying agent, their clients will have a spot to sign here. It won't say no one for the buying agent if they have their buyers added into the loop and given the role buyer. But for me, it says no one because I don't have any buyers, so no one for me is going to be signing in these boxes. So when I group them together, you'll notice that they both changed to no one. Grouping is a very useful feature for things like that. So that's how you assign signature boxes. Initial boxes work the exact same way, and we'll talk about that now. So you'll notice that we have this More button up here. We couldn't possibly fit all of these tools on the toolbar. It wouldn't work. Everything would be so small. So what we did is we put a More button here and made all the additional tools that are less used than Add Signature and Add Text available within the More menu. So for example, if I chose Add Initials, it will add the button here because I'm probably going to need to select it more than once, and you'll notice that I'm carrying around an initial box. Just for example, I'm just going to place one here, and you'll see it's assigned to anyone by default. In fact, I could sign this if I wanted to, but let's say I just want to assign it to my seller. It places her initials in there. Those are placeholder initials. They are not Sally's actual initials. You'll need to share this with her so that she can sign it. These are just placeholders to tell you who it's available to. So you'll notice that Add Initials stays up here. Again, I already mentioned that. That's because you may need to use this tool again. If I switch the tool, let's say to Add Checkbox, then it'll actually update to Add Checkbox here, and it'll stay there until I switch the tool again. So if I add a box, it's very easy. You just click, and there's a checkbox there. I can check it. I can uncheck it. I can assign it to someone. If I need Sally to check there, I can assign it to Sally. So a couple other tools that we have available here up in the More section is the Add Radio button. Radio buttons are used when you have multiple selections, but you only need one thing chosen from those selections. So a good example of placing them onto a PDF would be to hold down the Shift key, go ahead and place one, and maybe place a second one right underneath it. And I can click Add Radio button again up at the top to turn the tool off so it's no longer following my cursor. I can drag my box around both of these, group them together, and you can see if there was some text here for options, I would choose one, and if I wanted to choose the other one, it switches. It doesn't allow me to actually select both. So I'm sure you can think of multiple scenarios where radio buttons are better than a checkbox. Again, up at the top, just some more tools. We have the Add Strike Through button. This is very useful for when you want to strike through text that is, like, say, on the background of the PDF, not text that you've actually entered. If it's text that you've entered into a text field, you would simply just click on that text field, and let me turn off my strike through here. You would click on the text field and choose the strike through button for that text field, and you would just strike through it. That will actually strike through your entire text field. So let me click on a bigger one here and click strike through, and you'll see I've just struck through my entire line of text. Let me go ahead and take that off, both of these. Anyway, so if I click Add Strike Through here, just go ahead and place it. It's one line, and you can drag it the entire length of the line if you wanted to. So now I've just struck through my entire first line there. So Add Strike Through, it's pretty useful. A couple other options that we have here. You have the Save as Template. Now this is talked about a little more in our Apply Template article, but basically you can take this document that you've now created, let's say it's one that you're going to use very often, all of these fields that you've added, you'll basically just save them as a template. You can add this to future PDFs that would be the same PDF that you would upload, so the fields would be aligned in the same spot. So that pretty much covers editing PDFs using the dotloop document editor. Just a couple things that I would like to note real quick before I end the video. It's good to save your work as you go, because you never know if you might get disconnected from the internet, and you don't want to go through all the trouble of adding all these fields and then it not be saved, and you have to go back and do it again. So you want to save periodically. Another thing I'm going to note is if you, I'm just going to grab a signature box here, but this is true for any field. If you are trying to place the field and it just will not drop, as you can see, I'm clicking, and it won't drop, that's because I'm beyond the margin, the left-hand margin of the document. If I just simply bring it in, it'll drop now. I can place the box there. Let me go ahead and remove this. So that's it. Thank you for watching how to edit PDFs using the dotloop document editor.